Hi there, welcome back to TELW, the English Workshop with me, Manu, your English coach. Today we're going to look at the second part of our series, Our Neighborhood. In the previous part, we looked at, among other things, the different rules that govern the comparatives. Today, we're going to look at 4 things. 2 specific uses of comparatives. We'll look at a few examples on how to put those comparatives to use practically. Third, we're going to look at 2 different ways of stating comparisons, which is different from the first one. And fourth, of course, a practical way of using these things the way we normally speak. Let's start with the first one. The 2 different uses of comparatives. Specifically, we use that to talk about the progress of change and the dependence. Let's look at the first one, the progress of change. When a thing changes over time, how do we talk about that? Either it goes up or it goes down. Let me give you an example. The Chinese army intruded further and further into the Indian territory. Further and further. No, I don't say further. Further and further. Let me give you another example. After the Prime Minister took the first anti-COVID vaccine shot, more and more people started taking the anti-COVID vaccine. More and more people. As the violence increased, more and more farmers started leaving the protest. See, more and more farmers started leaving. So you can see that progress going more and more and more and more. The students started obeying the teacher less and less. See, less and less. Now, here's a side thing here. Do you say less and less or lesser and lesser? What's the difference between less and lesser? Okay, less is used for quantity, lesser is used for quality. Let me explain. 5 oranges is less than 6 oranges. Simple. Numbers. But if I say a pay raise is lesser than a promotion. Let's say you got a pay raise, you got an option of a pay raise of 5,000 rupees and a promotion with an increase in pay of 5,000 rupees. Which one would you take? Obviously the promotion, because you get more responsibility, more people working under you, the higher your position. So a lot of qualitative improvements as well. So a simple pay raise is lesser than a promotion in quality. Right. The second one is dependence, how one depends on another. Let's look at 2 actions. Eating junk food, growing fat. 2 actions. How do they depend? We say, all right, more. All right. How do we say that in English? The more junk food you eat, the fatter you get. That's going upwards. Both are going up. The smarter you work, the more successful you become. The more you study, the higher your score. And if you go down, the less you study, the lower your score. Do I say the lesser you study? No. When you study less, it means the number of hours that you put in is less. So the less you study, the lower your score. Not lesser your score comes down, so it's lower. So you can either talk about the movement going upwards or downwards together. Now, if they go opposite, so you can say the higher the price, the lower the demand. The economic theory of demand. So one goes up, the other goes down. So it's like this. The lower the price, higher the demand. The higher the price, lower the demand. The lower the penalty, the higher the number of violations. Right. Now let's look at a few examples where we compare people, places, things, and ideas. Let's start with the people. How do you normally compare people? Let's talk about two specific people. Let's compare Abhishek Bachchan and SRK, right? Because we know them. We can easily identify with them. So, Abhishek Bachchan is taller than Shah Rukh Khan. Taller than Shah Rukh Khan. Shah Rukh Khan is richer than Abhishek Bachchan. Right? I don't want to make a political statement, so let's stick with the actors here. Amir Khan is more charismatic than Nasiruddin Shah. More charismatic than. I'm just making an English statement, okay? It's not any political statement. All right. People. You can make these comparisons in a lot of other ways as well. I've just given you three examples. Let's compare places. Delhi and Mumbai. Delhi is bigger than Mumbai. Delhi is greener than Mumbai. Kolkata is dirtier than Delhi. Please, this is just an English statement here. Okay. Chennai is farther from Delhi than Mumbai. In the previous video, we saw the difference between farther and further. Now let's look at things. The mobile phone is more expensive than a desktop computer. More expensive. Desktop computer is expensive. Mobile is expensive. But mobile is more expensive than the desktop computer. Dell laptop is slower than HCL laptop. Suzuki car is more comfortable than Honda. More comfortable. Honda is faster than Toyota. Is faster than. Now let's look at some ideas. Now I've included ideas here because ideas are intangible. You can't touch them. You can't see them. You know it's an idea. How do you say that? You say, her presentation is more credible than her boss's presentation. I can simply say, her presentation is more credible than her boss's. I don't have to repeat presentation. What you say now is different from what your boss said last evening. Is different from. There's a comparison here as well. The new teacher presented the concepts more clearly than the older ones. I've used double over here. More clearly and older ones. Ones means teachers, yeah. Right. So we've seen how to compare people, places, things, and the non-tangibles like ideas. Now let's look at two more ways to describe comparisons. One is when two things are same, and the other is when they are different. Let's take the first instance. If two things are same, then we can use chunks like as blank as, the same as, is similar to. You can also have the negative on that. Let's look at some examples. She is as tall as her brother. Is as tall as. She is tall, her brother is also tall. They are same height. So we say she is as tall as her brother. Or she isn't as tall as her boyfriend. As a negative bit. This place is the same as I left it 20 years ago. Sagaratna's dishes are as delicious as evergreens. As delicious as means they are same in terms of deliciousness, in terms of taste. Similar to. Dell laptops are similar to Apple except for the price. Means the prices are different, otherwise they are same. No difference. Similar to. My hometown looked the same as it looked when I left it 5 years ago. Means 5 years didn't change anything. The second way is to describe things that are different. So, the parent's perspective is different from their children's. Children's. Note, I didn't say parent's perspective is different from the children's perspective. You don't repeat perspective, delete the second perspective. So the parent's perspective is different from the children's. What you say is different from what your boss said is different from. Now, there are 3 chunks that cause a lot of confusion among people. Different from, different to, different than. Let's look at this. Is there a difference? Not really. Different to is typically a British expression. They prefer different to over different than. Americans prefer different than over different to. But both are fine with different from. So if you really want to use different to, be careful not to use it with the Americans, they'll laugh. Different than, never use it with the British, they will laugh. But different from is equally acceptable on both sides of the ocean. Now I'm going to read a passage to show you how people normally use these chunks in their everyday conversation, spoken or maybe written as well when you write emails, etc. A very informal setting. You can also apply the same formula in the formal setting. Let's start. Last week, my wife and I went to see a movie. Generally, we love watching movies and discussing the story over dinner at our favorite restaurant. The hall was cooler than the last time. We reached the hall earlier than usual because the traffic was lighter than expected. The seats were quite comfortable, although I wanted to sit closer to the door. Nevertheless, we enjoyed the movie all right. One thing I loved was the food, which was less expensive than at the other halls, but sadly they tasted worse. So we decided to have something more delicious for dinner. On our way home, we started arguing about the climax of the movie. My wife was angry that the protagonist was worse than the antagonist, so he should have been arrested. Further, he wasn't handsome. I, however, didn't argue. But we both agreed that the heroine's sister was more beautiful. Suddenly we realized that we were running out of petrol. So we had to go farther away from our usual route, and we also stopped by to get some grocery and reached home later than normal. Overall, it was a great evening. I love going to the movies with my wife, never mind the arguments. So that was it for this video. In the next video, we're going to learn how to talk about the extent of change. That is, how much. And we'll also read the same passage with those principles included. Thank you for watching this video, liking it and subscribing to our channel. We'll see you in the next video. Until then.